In the quiet suburbs of Louisville, Kentucky, Sarah Ali moved through the spacious living room of their estate, her fingers trailing along the framed photographs that captured moments of her husband's legendary career. 27 years of marriage to Muhammad Ali had been a journey of extremes, from the dazzling spotlights of worldwide fame to the quiet struggles behind closed doors as Parkinson's disease gradually claimed more of the man she loved. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the hardwood floors as Sarah sifted through the mail. 3 bills, 2 charity requests, and a thick envelope from their accountant, Marcus. She opened it with practiced efficiency, expecting the usual quarterly statement. What she found instead was a notification about an account she'd never seen before. Account number 457893, located at First National Bank of Chicago, active for 15 years. 15 years, she whispered to herself, the paper trembling slightly in her hand. Almost as long as Muhammad's diagnosis. She reached for her phone, then hesitated. Their relationship had always been built on trust, even as his health declined. Now facing this mysterious account, that foundation seemed suddenly fragile. Sarah settled into the leather armchair by the window, the one Muhammad used to occupy in his stronger days. Outside, the gardener tended to the roses, oblivious to the storm brewing within the walls of the Ali home. She dialed the bank's number, her heart racing as she pressed each digit. I need information on an account, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. My husband is Muhammad Ali, and I've just discovered something that I'm sorry, ma'am. The customer service representative interrupted. We can only discuss account details with authorized individuals. I'm his wife. I handle all our finances due to his condition. I understand, but without proper authorization, I cannot provide any information. After 3 more frustrating calls and being transferred twice, Sarah hung up. The growing knot in her stomach tightened. Whatever this account held, it was deliberately kept separate from their joint finances. Se essa história já fez você sentir alguma coisa, por menor que seja, não sai sem retribuir. Comenta e me diga de onde você está vendo este vídeo, e se inscreve no canal. The following morning, Sarah drove through downtown Louisville, memories flooding back of parades held in Muhammad's honor, of how the city had embraced their champion. 8 stoplights later, she parked outside Marcus's office building, clutching the statement in her purse. Sarah, this is unexpected, Marcus said, rising from behind his desk. His office showcased framed financial certificates and a small model of a yacht, his retirement dream. Is everything all right? She placed the statement on his desk. Did you know about this? Marcus adjusted his glasses, his expression carefully neutral. Yes, I was aware. 15 years, Marcus. 15 years, and not once did you think to mention it. It wasn't my place, he replied, folding his hands. Muhammad was explicit in his instructions. What's in the account? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus hesitated. I think that's something you should discuss with him. He can barely speak most days, Sarah said, the reality of their situation hanging heavy between them. You know that. I do. Marcus sighed, the weight of dual loyalty evident in his slumped shoulders. But this was important to him. Sarah, very important. She left Marcus's office with more questions than answers, driving past 7 landmarks that had defined their life together. The old gym where he trained local kids, the community center they'd helped fund, the mosque where they prayed. Each place held memories of the man whose secrets now threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew. That evening, she watched Muhammad sleep, his once powerful frame now diminished, his breathing labored but peaceful. She couldn't bring herself to confront him with her discovery. Not yet, not until she knew more. The next morning dawned with a crisp autumn chill. Sarah sat in her Mercedes-Benz S-Class, a $40,000 anniversary gift from Mohammed 3 years ago, gathering her courage before entering First National Bank of Chicago's Louisville branch. The sleek vehicle felt like a cruel irony now, a symbol of their supposed financial transparency. Inside, the marble floors and mahogany desks exuded old money and discretion. A young banker in a Brioni suit worth at least $4,000 led her to a private consultation room. "Ali, it's an honor," he said, extending a manicured hand adorned with a Patek Philippe watch that could easily cost $50,000. "I'm Jonathan Pierce. How can I assist you today?" Sarah placed her identification and power of attorney documents on the glass table. "You need information about an account my husband holds here. Account 457893. Jonathan's smile remained fixed, but something flickered behind his eyes. "One moment, please." He left the room, documents in hand. 20 minutes later, he returned with an older man whose Savile Row suit and Berluti shoes marked him as someone accustomed to serving millionaire clients. "Mrs. Ali, I'm Richard Harrington, branch manager," he said, his voice carrying the polished tones of privilege. "I understand you're inquiring about one of our specialized accounts." "My husband's account," Sarah corrected. "As his legal power of attorney, I have the right to know." Richard nodded slowly. "Your documents are in order, Mrs. Ali. However, this particular account has specific parameters. It was established with unique instructions." "What kind of instructions?" "The account can only be fully disclosed under certain conditions," Richard explained, choosing his words carefully. Mr. Ali was most particular about that. Sarah felt her patience wearing thin. "My husband is 74 years old and suffering from advanced Parkinson's. Whatever conditions he set 15 years ago need to be reconsidered given his current health." Richard glanced at Jonathan, who discreetly left the room. "Mrs. Ali, the account in question currently holds approximately $8,700,000. The number hit Sarah like a physical blow. $8 million, nearly $9 million in a secret account. Their charitable foundation operated on less than half that amount annually. "Where did this money come from?" she asked, her voice hollow. "Various sources. International appearance fees, primarily from Saudi investors and Emirates royalty, licensing agreements in countries where his legal team had less oversight, a substantial payment from a Russian oligarch for a private exhibition in Moscow." Sarah struggled to reconcile this information with the man she knew. Mohammed had always insisted on transparency in their finances, especially after they'd weathered an IRS investigation in the 90s. They'd established systems, safeguards, or so she thought. "Why keep this separate? Why the secrecy?" she asked. Richard hesitated. "Mrs. Ali, I'm not privy to Mr. Ali's personal motivations. I can only tell you that the account has been actively managed for 15 years, with regular deposits and occasional withdrawals." "Withdrawals to where?" "That's where I'm afraid I must stop. The beneficiary information is protected under the specific instructions Mr. Ali established." Sarah left the bank with a statement showing the account's growth over 15 years, but no information about where the withdrawal, totaling nearly $12 million, had gone. The beautiful fall day seemed to mock her distress as she drove past a billboard advertising Rolex watches for those who achieve greatness. At home, she found Mohammed in his study with his nurse, looking through an old photo album. His hands trembled as he pointed to a picture, his speech slurred but his eyes bright with recognition. How could she confront him about this? How could she not? The nurse discreetly left as Sarah sat beside her husband, taking his hand in hers. "We need to talk about Chicago," she said gently. "About the account." Mohammed's eyes met hers, and in that moment she saw something she'd rarely witnessed in all their years together: fear. The silence between them stretched as Mohammed's trembling fingers reached for the communication tablet he used when speech failed him. Sarah waited, the weight of unspoken truths hanging between them like an invisible barrier. Outside their 12-acre estate, A gardener trimmed hedges near the Olympic-sized swimming pool that Mohammed hadn't used in 7 years. Not what you think, he typed slowly, each letter requiring tremendous effort. Then help me understand, Sarah urged, fighting to keep accusation from her voice. $8 million, Mohammed. Secret flights to Dubai and Moscow, meetings you never mentioned. His eyes, still sharp despite his physical limitations, held hers. He typed again, for them. Who is them? Mohammed's nurse appeared at the doorway. He's becoming agitated, Mrs. Ali. Perhaps this conversation should wait. No, Sarah said firmly. This can't wait anymore. 15 years is long enough. The nurse retreated reluctantly as Mohammed struggled to control his tremors enough to type again. Cassius family. Sarah stared at the name on the screen, confusion giving way to dawning comprehension. Cassius, his birth name Cassius Clay, before he converted to Islam and became Muhammad Ali, the family he had left behind in that transformation. Your father's relatives? Your cousins in Kentucky? She asked. He nodded, then typed, laboriously, and others. That evening Sarah sat alone in their home theater, a $30,000 custom installation they'd rarely used in recent years. The 20-seat room with its leather recliners and state-of-the-art sound system suddenly felt like an obscene luxury. She opened her laptop, its glow illuminating her face in the darkened room as she began searching for connections. Cassius Clay Sr. had died years ago, but Mohammed had cousins, second cousins, relatives by marriage, a sprawling family tree with branches that extended far beyond those acknowledged in official biographies. Many still lived in poverty in Louisville's West End, where Mohammed himself had grown up. A knock at the door interrupted her research. It was Darius, their chauffeur and Mohammed's occasional companion. Mrs. Ali, I don't mean to intrude, he said, standing awkwardly in his uniform despite being off duty. But I couldn't help overhearing earlier. You know something about this, don't you? Sarah asked, suddenly understanding why Mohammed had insisted on keeping Darius employed even after he could no longer drive regularly. Darius nodded. I've driven Mr. Ali to meetings, bank transfers, hospital visits for people you've never met. Why didn't you tell me? He made me promise. Darius replied simply, said it was complicated by religion, by politics, said some would call it blood money, others call it atonement. Atonement for what? For becoming Mohammed and leaving Cassius behind. The next morning, Sarah drove her Mercedes through Louisville's West End, past rundown houses and abandoned storefronts that stood in stark contrast to their suburban mansion. She parked outside a modest brick home with a well-maintained garden. According to the records she'd found, this house belonged to Elijah Clay, a second cousin of Mohammed's, who had once been promised a boxing career of his own. A woman in her 60s opened the door, recognition flickering across her face. You're Mohammed's wife? Yes. Are you Elijah's wife? I'd like to speak with him. Elijah passed 5 years ago, the woman said. Cancer. I'm Martha. I'm sorry for your loss, Sarah said automatically. May I come in? I'm trying to understand something important. Martha's living room was simple but comfortable, with framed photographs covering one wall. Many featured a young Muhammad Ali in his Cassius Clay days, arm thrown around various relatives. One showed him with a young man who bore a striking resemblance to him. That's Elijah, Martha explained, following Sarah's gaze. They were close as boys. Both had the gift, people said. But only one got the chance. Did Mohammed help your family financially? Sarah asked directly. Martha's expression softened. He saved our son's life, paid for treatment at Mayo Clinic when Isaiah was diagnosed with the same cancer that later took Elijah. $100,000 of treatment insurance wouldn't cover. Bought this house so we'd have stability. Paid for college for our grandchildren. And others? Did he help others from the old neighborhood? Many, Martha confirmed. But always quietly, said it wasn't charity. It was obligation. Said he carried the Clay name to glory, then left it behind. The money was his way of honoring where he came from. As Sarah drove away, she passed a community center with a small plaque she'd never noticed before, renovated with generous support from Anonymous. 2008. The building stood well maintained amidst the neighborhood's decline. Her phone rang. It was the bank manager, Richard Harrington. Ali, upon further review of your legal status, I've been authorized to provide you with the complete beneficiary list for the account in question. There are 47 individuals or families currently receiving support. Would you like me to email this information? Yes, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the emotions churning within her. And the withdrawal history. I need to see it all. Back at their estate, Sarah spread the documents across the dining table, a handcrafted piece worth $20,000 that now held papers revealing a different kind of wealth. 47 beneficiaries, 15 years, $12 million distributed in medical bills, housing, education, business investments. Mohammed watched her from his wheelchair, his body betraying nothing of his thoughts, but his eyes following her movements with quiet intensity. His nurse had positioned him by the window, where the afternoon light illuminated his still handsome face. Why the secrecy? Sarah finally asked, looking up from the papers. Why not tell me? Mohammed gestured for his tablet. His fingers moved painfully slow, complicated. Islamic charity, private matter. Sarah felt a complex mixture of emotions. Hurt at being excluded, understanding of his religious convictions about charitable giving, amazement at the scope of his secret generosity. Zakat, he typed, referring to the Islamic principle of obligatory charity. And more, responsibility. Sarah moved to kneel beside his wheelchair, taking his trembling hand in hers. You could have trusted me with this. Shame, he typed, each letter appearing with painful slowness. Left them behind. The realization hit Sarah with sudden clarity. The secret wasn't the giving, it was the guilt that motivated it. Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer of all time, global icon, beloved figure, had carried a private shame about those he'd left behind when Cassius Clay converted to Islam and transformed into a new man. The phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was Isaiah Clay, Elijah's son, calling from the Mayo Clinic, where he now worked as a physician. Mrs. Ali, I've just heard from my mother that you visited. I wanted to call personally to tell you what your husband did for us. Not just the money for my treatment, but the dignity he gave us. He never wanted acknowledgement. Said it was between him and Allah. After the call, Sarah sat with Muhammad in their garden, the one luxury he still enjoyed daily. Their $500,000 landscape paradise had been designed to stimulate all the senses. Fragrant flowers, bubbling fountains, wind chimes that danced in the breeze. The bank called again, she told him. The account is structured to continue the payments for 20 years after your death. You've thought of everything. Muhammad's eyes crinkled slightly, the closest he could come to a smile most days. I understand now, Sarah continued. But I wish you'd shared this burden with me. We could have carried it together. He typed slowly. My final fight. Private one. That evening, as Muhammad slept, Sarah made a decision. She called Richard Harrington at his private number. I'd like to add to the account, she said without preamble, from my personal inheritance. And I want to meet these families, work with them directly. Mr. Ali was quite specific about maintaining distance, Richard cautioned. That was his way, Sarah replied. This is mine. The secret's purpose has been fulfilled. Now it's time for something new. 3 days later, Sarah stood in the community center in Louisville's West End, surrounded by 23 people whose lives had been transformed by Muhammad's secret generosity. Medical school graduates, small business owners, homeowners who'd escaped cycles of poverty. Not all were blood relatives. Some were children of his father's friends, descendants of his early trainers, families connected to his Cassius Clay days. As they shared stories of how Anonymous had changed their trajectories, Sarah understood the true magnitude of her husband's legacy. Not just the boxing victories or the political stands, but these quiet interventions that had rewritten family histories without public knowledge. Mohammed had chosen to watch the gathering via video call, too frail to attend in person. On screen, she could see the peace in his eyes as he witnessed his two worlds finally merging, the champion he had become and the community he had never truly left. That night, as she helped him prepare for bed, he typed one final message. No longer devastated, Sarah smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. No, humbled and proud, so very proud. If you've come this far and felt every word, why not leave without subscribing? I tell these stories with my heart in my hand, to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this really touched you, reciprocate, comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.